What did the clothing feel like?
Well, at that time I was still in my own clothes, which were taken off of me about 2 days later, and I were given some old stripy type of a pajamas and a two-piece suit and a rough grey and black stripy suit. And that's what I were wearing for quite some time.
Yeah, and what did it feel like?
Well, it was very uncomfortable, but better than nothing. What can I say? Wasn't my usual clothes what my mother and my father bought me.
Yeah. So, what did you miss the most about home?
Could you repeat this question again?
Okay. What did you miss the most about home?
What did I miss
What did you miss the most about home?
about home?
Yeah.
Well, I missed a care of my parents. I missed my freedom. And I missed my friends and the way we lived.
Yeah. What was the worst thing about the Holocaust?
Well, at that time I did not know anything about the Holocaust, and at that time I simply did not understood the political situation between Hungary and Germany, and I simply didn't know what was going on and why I were taken away from my parents. I did not simply understood. I was too young.
How did it feel to see people die?
Well, at the early stages I did not see anybody die, anybody dead, because I was selected to a special camp of children, boys and twins, children. We were taken to Birkenau for an experiment. It was a German scientist and professor called oh, hang on, I got a mental block. I will remember that in a minute.
Mengele.
Joseph Mengele?
Yes, Joseph Mengele, a German scientist and a doctor who demanded on, and that's why he were in Auschwitz to experiment on people, not necessarily all children, but majority were children, and the first few days we just were shoved into barracks, into that triple bunks, and we simply didn't know much about anything. We just were there, and we just didn't know anything until later. They started to picking up every day in the morning between 4 and 6 children, shoved into a van and taken into Birkenau, which is where about 2 minutes driving time. That's where they had the big hospital buildings, and that's where they did the experiments, the medical experiments. And until I were taken, I did not know what's all about. And a few days later, after we settled into that building where they took us, it's more or less were a kind of a waiting place for us, because every day they rotated the children who take them into Birkenau. And each day there is a few people came over, German people, and they did all kinds of measurements on ourselves. They measured our chins and eyes and the heads and the weight and measured the bones and all this kind of things they did to us. And they shaved in our head and injected us with all kinds of chemicals. And so half the time I just did not know anything what's going on. And at that time I did not see the outside world. I were more or less locked into that room with approximately 30 other children, and we only see the daylight when they took us into Birkenau in a van and when they returned us. Sometimes they picked up 6 people and only brought back 4. The other 2 just perished.
Did you have any friends there?
Yes, I had a little girl who I were taken from Hungary, called Eva, and she was older than I am, and we were in the same bunk. You know, they had sleeping conditions like they had bunks, bottom bunks, medium bunks, top bunks. The younger children, because they had quite a few young ones as well, 5 years old and 6 years old. Not all were old as myself, 8 or 10 or 12. And the younger ones were occupying the bottom shelves, the bottom bunks. The medium bunks were round up between 6 and 8 years old children. Myself were in a medium bunk, and Eva, who was gone 12 years old, she got the top bunk. And that's how we were accommodated.